Dave Pellow is well known for his successful church and state summits held around the nation. Recently at an event, his characterisation of Aboriginal history drew the ire of an attendee and a complaint was lodged with the Queensland Human Rights Commission. He is now being forced to attend mediation and has had to seek legal advice from the Human Rights Law Alliance. Dave Pellow joins me now. Dave, thanks for your time. Tell us what happened. What did you say that has landed you in legal hot water?
Thank you, Lyle, and thank you for this opportunity to, promote the good work of HRLA, who I'm hoping we can raise a lot of money for, because there's a lot of people who don't have your and my platforms and friends in the media who are regularly being targeted because of their faith and honest and well-meant participation in public debate. And they don't have the same kind of resources to defend themselves. So for HRLA to be able to come to their defence is a great opportunity to help raise awareness and funding for. In my particular
that's
situation.
Exactly right, yeah. And of course, they are representing myself in my drag queen case. And as you rightly point out, there's way too many people who are now being dragged before these kangaroo courts. Yours was in relation to an Indigenous or someone who claims to be offended on behalf of Indigenous people. Just tell us what you said and what their grievance is, and why this is so bad that it's landed you in a compulsory legal process.
Well, it wasn't the Welcome to Country itself, but it is what prompted a question, and my answer to that is what the complainant is objecting to. And so it's my practice. Everybody's well familiar with the ubiquitousness of these Welcome to Country rituals being imposed upon Australians of all beliefs or non-belief, at sporting events, when you land on a plane, when you walk into a government building, when you visit a website, when you start a Zoom meeting. These are religious rituals which Christians in particular should have no part of, and under a democratic, allegedly secular and pluralistic society, it should also be something that the taxpayer doesn't fund and the government doesn't impose. I mean, the biggest imposition we see right now is national parks and public landmarks, with white people being locked out of them because we don't have the right religion.
Yep. So Dave, presumably at one of your meetings then you made this very point, and look, I agree with you. I think this has gone too far. I'm not wanting to be disrespectful of Indigenous people. I love Indigenous culture and the heritage that is proudly part of this continent.
But it's got nothing to do with the people.
Exactly. So what is it that they took offence to if you were just articulating this view? Why is that suddenly a legal issue?
Well, there's no rational reason why it should be. This complaint is frivolous and in most of it fabricated.
Yeah. So Dave, sorry to interrupt. Just tell us what you said. You're at a public meeting. You made some comments. What did you say?
What I said, they asked me why I'm not offended about, why I'm not worried or concerned about offending Indigenous people. And my answer to that was an explanation of the duty of Christians to preach the truth and gospel and to not mix Christianity with false religion, such as the Aboriginal traditional religion, which is bearing all the hallmarks of animism and paganism and inherently false beliefs, according to the one true religion, which is Christianity. Now, for a Christian teacher to say this to a Christian audience who came to hear Christian doctrine in a Christian church, which was ticketed event, it's bizarre that somebody would expect to be hearing anything other than Christian doctrine or the assertion of Christian doctrine. But that's the sum of it. This gentleman seems to be offended by an accurate comparison of Aboriginal religion to typical Indigenous religions, which have all the hallmarks of animism. Now, that's not even Christian doctrine. You ask ChatGPT, what is animism? And the resemblance to what is imposed on Australians all the time with smoking ceremonies, welcome to country, etc., is exactly the same thing.
So Dave,
very similar.
why did this person at your meeting then think that your characterisation of Indigenous spirituality as animism or as different to Christian religion, why is a discussion like that inherently offensive to Indigenous people? And again, how does that then warrant a legal complaint? And what in the law has been actually triggered that's forced you to go before the Queensland Human Rights Commission?
Well, there's nothing rational that has justified this attack. In fact, on the rationality of it, 54% of Aboriginal Australians identify as Christian. They are sympathetic to and harmonious with and participating intentionally in Christian doctrine. On the other hand, only 2%, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, during the census, only 2% of Aboriginals identify with traditional Aboriginal religion.
Yep.
That's
Dave,
2%
Dave, what is the law?
of the population.
What is the law that you've broken? I agree with you on the statistics. So many Aboriginal people are Christians, but I'm struggling here to understand why my friend Dave Pello is in trouble with the law. Which piece of legislation is it? The anti-discrimination law? Is it some sort of vilification law? You can't just be hauled before a commission unless you've, potentially breached the law.
Well, potentially is a different question to what have I done. I, in fact, haven't broken any law. What I'm accused of doing, and therefore, requiring a parajudicial commissioner or advocate of some sort to rule on the question of is whether or not in fact there has been some breach of the law, and the complaint is ticking the boxes. There's a bunch of things like an a la carte menu that the complainant has to choose which feelings have been offended today, and he's actually claiming that I have racially vilified and humiliated him on the grounds of his race and religion. Now, I don't know if he's some other religion, why he came to a Christian event to hear from a Christian teacher of Christian doctrine.
Okay, so that race and religion are what are called protected attributes under anti-discrimination, or presumably it's the Queensland Anti-Discrimination Act. I could stand corrected there. But what would happen, Dave, if you didn't respond to this complaint and you just said, look, sorry, I'm a free citizen, I don't want to turn up to this mediation process?
I don't know the answer to that. I presume there would be some kind of penalties, etc. I think the way I personally apply biblical injunctions to be submitted to authority is to go through this process, though falsely accused. Paul appealed to his rights as a citizen, but didn't boycott when he was falsely charged with preaching the gospel. And so I'll go through the system, but I won't obey an unjust law to not preach the gospel. I won't obey an unjust ruling to apologise for saying what's true. So I can be submitted to the governing authorities without obeying them, which means I'll essentially face the penalty. And I will use every recourse available to me before then to defend myself.
So, Dave, if this process plays out, and I've been through similar sort of mediation processes with my drag queen case, and I've said no, I'm not going to apologise, I'm not going to pay you money, all the things that they've demanded. It's ended up in a 4-year legal process. You could well be at the start of indefinite litigation, which is what I've been facing, and many others, as we've mentioned. You've already had to engage the Human Rights Law Alliance, a terrific law firm that helps freedom of religion, freedom of speech cases. Are you prepared to go all the way? Are you prepared to go to jail if that's where this leads? Look,
I'm not in a hurry to get there, but if it comes down to that, absolutely. There's no way I will apologise for the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's no way I would hold such hatred in my heart for my neighbour that I would suppress the truth. And I consider Indigenous brothers and sisters neighbours to be loved by sharing the truth and warning of the danger of suppressing the truth. It's very clearly a path that leads to destruction. And so many Aboriginal brothers and sisters, praise God, have actually accepted the truth of Jesus Christ 25 times more than those who identify as traditional Aboriginal religion. And so, yeah, I would be humbled and rejoice in the opportunity to suffer for the sake of the gospel. And if that means, look, I don't care if the penalty is $2.50. On the principle of it, I will not apologise for preaching the gospel and declaring the truth, that there is only one way to eternal life and salvation, and that is the gospel of Jesus Christ, mixed with no other religion.
Yeah, well, these laws are terrible. I've spoken about them before. You have, many others have. They need to be taken off our books. It's a shame that politicians don't have the courage to make the necessary amendments so that freedom of religion and freedom of speech can be restored in this nation. Dave, if people want to support your case, I know it's already cost money. The Human Rights Law Alliance lawyers are already working on it. What can people do to support your case? How can they practically get involved?
There's a Give, Send, Go campaign, givesendgo.com/CAS-HRLA. That's short for the Church and State-Human Rights Law Alliance fundraiser. That's givesendgo.com/CAS-HRLA. Go there, and my goal is to raise 100 times more than is needed for my defence, because I think this should be dealt with rather easily if any common sense has a chance of prevailing. We know that's a roll of the dice with these tribunals. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But at any rate, there's so many more people who are being targeted by this, and yep. The people who are weaponising this system frivolously and vexatiously get unlimited funding from the government to use this legislation as a weapon, and they pay no penalty or cost for being wrong.
Yep.
Whereas innocent people who are being targeted have no funding, have no government support, and have no counsel to try and navigate this system that nobody should be an expert in, and very few people are. And so the Human Rights Law Alliance are doing such invaluable work. We need to fund them voluntarily and above and beyond what the government requires us in taxes. This is what we can do to protect free speech, free religion, freedom of thought in this nation. Very good. No, I couldn't agree more. Please go and support Dave's case at the Give, Send, Go site that he's just mentioned. Well, Dave, really appreciate your time. We'll continue to follow this with interest and continue to put pressure on politicians to do what's needed to restore freedom of speech in this nation. Thanks very much. Thank you, Lyle. Thank you, ADH TV.